Good afternoon, guests and panelists, and welcome to the UNEF Pavilion. Today, our theme is Forest and Land Use Day. This morning, we already heard about a humongous challenge and a massive opportunity. The $7 trillion negative flow on finance to nature-based solutions, and also the opportunities to flip the flow of finance to nature. Then we looked more closely into the solutions to end deforestation and forest degradation and how we can do, or we should do, everything, everywhere, all at once. And with that, we open this session looking at ways at which we can restore what we've destroyed, entitled Empowering People, Strengthening Partnerships, Improving Ecosystem Restoration to Ensure a Climate-Resilient Future. It's moderated by Mr. Tamelander, Director of Science and Policy at Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Jerker, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone to this event organized in the context of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. This event will showcase achievements and success stories in improving ecosystem restoration with a particular focus on world restoration flagship initiatives. You'll hear about knowledge sharing and collaboration. You'll hear about behavior change campaigns and tools, including joint efforts with UN RED. You'll hear about strategies and tools for tracking restoration effort and ensuring its lasting legacy through the framework for ecosystem restoration monitoring, the UN Decade's platform for keeping track of global restoration efforts. And you'll hear about existing and exciting, innovative tools for finance. By highlighting the pivotal role of ecosystem restoration in addressing global environmental challenges, and not least climate change, and how it provides concrete, practical, and scalable solutions, the event will support decisions as well as actions towards ensuring a climate-resilient future. This event will have two panel discussions. There will be some opportunity to address questions from the audience. When we get into the panel discussions, I will introduce speakers as they are invited to take the floor and make their statements. But to set us off and put us on track, we'll begin by watching a short video on stories from the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. So please go ahead with the video.
We lost this balance of the healthy ecosystem. More and more area is covered by steppe fires.
Satu abrasi yang luar biasa hingga desa-desa itu banyak yang tenggelam.
De plus en plus les conflits s'augmentent.
Unless we understand that, this will be getting worse and worse.
But that doesn't tell the whole story. You can see this as the front line against climate change.
Wild ungulates such as saiga, their intermediate grazing pressure helps to maintain such habitats.
Restaurar a floresta não é fácil.
Pusimos lo que es granza de arroz, tierra, carbón.
挨了离苦的，吃了以后排出了粪便，他感觉到盯着眼睛大啊。
O movimento da restauração não é só restaurar florestas, restaurar paisagens, restaurar vida.
It's the same needs, the same approach. So we need to act together.
Este es mi hogar. No hemos perdido la esperanza.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and just beautiful imagery, inspirational stories. Without further ado, I'd like to start us off with the first panel. So first panelist here today is Ms. Katrina Borromeo. She's a program management officer with UN RED and has a background in social sciences and in development communication. She'll speak to us about behavior change campaigns. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Jerker. I'd like to start with a premise that for restoration to be really successful and long-lasting, we need to be really addressing the root or the key drivers of nature loss. And it's quite well known across many academic studies that human behavior is actually really the one that is driving nature loss. So from our unsustainable consumption habits, our unsustainable human demand for forest and nature products, animal products, the rapid urbanization, and many, many more. But we also know that behavior is influenced by so many factors. It can be while you are growing up, this is the community that you grew up with, and this is the behavior that you adapted. And changing such behavior would take a long time. It would take changing social norms, structures, and systems. And to add to that complexity, humans are also not always that rational. So actually, I want to start off with a short quiz or just a show of hands here, because in terms of behavior, let me just. So the scenario is in a bustling Chinese city. A group of university students discover a small shop selling furniture made from endangered tree species called rosewood. So this is a very special tree species. It's endemic already and endangered, I mean. So the shop owner claims that the wood is sourced legally. What do you think their reaction would be? So A, buy the furniture without questioning its origin. B, express concern and discuss the impacts of selling such products, considering the endangered status of rosewood. And C, do nothing. So since it's after lunch, I would like you to stand up if you think it's A, sit down. No, raise your hands if you think it's B, and take a nap if you think it's C. So what's your question, your answer? A is stand up, B is raise your hands, and C, take a nap. I see some raised hands and taking a nap. It's actually taking a nap. They do nothing. Like they would still buy whatever because it's beautiful and it's that's what they want it for. They will not question where it's coming from. So see, this is what human behavior is looking like. So what we did, I'm gonna go into a flashback. We to UN RED, my program, together with the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration, we run a campaign called Forests for Life. But this is not just your normal awareness raising campaign. This is really targeting towards changing behaviors. And when we tried to do that, we wanted to be data-driven. So we did a survey across 3 cities in China, about 500 respondents. And what we found is that, of course, it's quite obvious, there is a disconnect between people's knowledge and their willingness to act against illegal logging or forest crime or illegal products sold in the market. But if you look at their scores of China, knowledge is really high. They know what they have to do, but they don't do it. There is that big gap. And a lot of people really cannot connect with forests and forest messaging. And in the Chinese culture, you also cannot tell them what to do, especially if rosewood, this very endangered tree species, is part of their daily lives and culture. So I would like to show you now what this campaign is looking like. But before I show you the video, I just wanted to share that what we did with this campaign is that we tried to connect to emotions rather than reasoning. We tried to offer them alternatives. We worked with furniture shop owners to really label their products And also we tried targeting, reaching the young people more, so that, because it's mostly the young people who the parents or the elderlies would listen to, not really like someone else in some cases. So yes, it's just a snapshot because we don't have much time, but that's the Forest for Life campaign. I will play the video right now. It's already halfway through. We're halfway through the campaign and we're seeing some changes already. But as I said, behavior change takes time, and we hope that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we can see some impacts of this campaign in terms of protecting and restoring rosewood and nature. May I play the video?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Katrina. And it's an interesting example just to illustrate that a knowledge or awareness gap is not always the major obstacle to action. That said, of course, knowledge and awareness are a critical foundation for action. So thanks. If you have questions, please save them to the end of this first panel so that we manage to get through all. Svetlana, can I invite you also to join this panel? However, you're not the next speaker. I'll give you a moment to settle. The next speaker is Mr. Marshall Bernoux. He's a Senior Natural Resources Officer at FAO, working in the field of climate change mitigation, and a doctorate degree in soil science and agronomy. And he'll speak to us about the framework for ecosystem restoration monitoring. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I guess I will stand up. It's better so you can see. Basically, I have a presentation. So that presentation is not me. It's you need me to sit because for the streaming, for the live streaming. So I will sit. And I will have a problem with my neck after, but it's fine. No, it's fine. So that presentation is not mine. I am from the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment, so waiting to have the presentation on the screen. In the meantime, so I'm presenting on behalf of the team working really on the UN Decade on the Restoration that are hosted by our Division of Forestry, on a team led by Yelena Ingehold and Julian Fox. So we're really engaging quite regularly with UNEP on that and with Natalia Alexieva also. Perhaps I can anticipate, I can do without the slide also. So the question is, if I ask you, what is the global status on restoration? Can you straightforwardly respond? I guess we still have difficulties to understand how much restoration is going out there, because we have a lot of different actors, players, and we see a very good example. I really strong believer that we need to change the people, not only. So we change the mind of the way we are behaving. This is really the most important. So the commitment is there, 1 billion hectares. But how to aggregate the number? You have a patchwork of different platforms and initiatives. So at FAO, we realize that we have also an opportunity that is target 2 of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, the Convention. Biodiversity that have been really recently adopted. And we have the mandate from CBD to do that. So basically, we're developing a platform that one day you will see the slide. I guess it will be accessible to all participants after. So basically, the name is FIRM. So it's a framework on ecosystem restoration monitoring. So it's a system that will be the official monitoring platform for tracking global progress on disseminating good practices for the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and really with the aim of reporting areas for the Montreal Global Biodiversity Target 2. So this is really what we aim. And that tool, that framework, has three components. One is a registry. So the second one is a geospatial tool and a search engine. So the registry, it's really to have in one-stop shop all the good practices for all ecosystems. You can go there and you can, if you're interested in one specific, you will find the research possibility. A geospatial tool for a better visualization, and we hope visualization can also sometimes support the change of the people we need. It's really important. Some people are more visual, and we need to have sometimes some such element. On the search engine for consultation, where you will look really for specific restoration activity or region, you can easily target that. So this is for us really an important UN flagship, and really FAO is fully engaged to support on that. So we have if you Google FERM, F-E-R-M, or just ferm.fao.org, basically you have access to it. It's really a collaborative platform. This is really what we want to see. Collaboration, because individual agency, individual project, it's really difficult to make that really important target. So basically, this is only collaborating. FIRM can help really to compile data, help in the reporting, the monitoring, and the transparency, because we need really to respect the transparency. Transparency, we are here in the UNFCCC. You know, you have the transparency framework. All convention are calling for more and more transparency on what we're doing and what we're using. On other aspects, also on finance, for instance, it's most important to avoid double counting. So for that, we need really clear framework with clear definition, with registry. So this is really the aim of FIRM. In terms of collaboration on transparency pillar, let me just mention here that we are working closely with VOCAT, Panorama, GoPro 4, on other. So we are fully really open to have more and more partners, and really to have that common ground with all together we can act. Perhaps I can use what we have seen the COP unit. So first we need really unit to act all together. And you were supposed to see a QR code with more detail, but you can reach out to me, and I will pass you the contact also of my colleague Julia. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Marshall. And yes, hopefully we might get that QR code on screen. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll find it on the web or directly through Marshall. So thank you for that information. We are very short on time for this event, so I'll ask speakers to try to be very succinct. I'll ask people in the audience, when you raise your questions, eventually be also very succinct and precise so that we have a richer interaction. Svetlana Klimenko is a lead climate finance specialist in the World Bank's governance global practice. She's an expert in financial and non-financial corporate and government reporting, and she'll speak to us about innovative tools and financial mechanisms for ecosystem restoration. Svetlana, the floor is yours. Please, if you have slides, put them on screen, but please remember the very tight time we're under.
Okay, now it works. Thank you. So the World Bank has significantly scaled up our work on all issues related to the nature finance over the last especially year. And we look at different dimensions when it comes to this very broad agenda, right? So we look at the regulations, we look at the innovative ways to finance different parts of the value chains that collectively define this space. And big part of our work is focused on identifying sources of financing for areas which are particularly difficult to fund, such as this one. So we are chairing the task force on the restoration finance, and we are about to issue the report literally in the coming weeks, which summarizes a lot of work which we have done over the last year, looking at the challenges that exist in this space, including regulations, including the generation of the right revenue streams, etc. So if you could please click. What we also realized is that part of the challenge that for many stakeholders, this space is so new that they cannot even conceptualize what is being asked of them. So for example, if you work on Amazon and if you approach different stakeholders, including in financial sector, with the request to collaborate on Amazon, the first response is, of course, yes. The second question is, but what exactly do you want me to do? Because this is such a still very new space, especially for the private finance. So what we try to do in this report, which will be out very soon, is to summarize a few very concrete case studies based on the work that has been conducted up to date, so that stakeholders who would be interested to come into this space will have a very specific reference point. So finally, since I only have 4 minutes, right, we did look at the categories, and as you can see here, so we specifically looked at the governments, companies, financial sectors, and partners, because they all have their particular way of engaging with this agenda. So in this report, we are providing specific recommendations how these different categories of stakeholders could come into this space and contribute. And that would be very different from financial sector to company and to the government, right? So my last point on this is that this is, and it will continue to be probably one of the more challenging areas to address because of the profile of the underlying activities. So innovation would be particularly important in this. So on our side, we look forward to see what Brazil is going to do in particular in their G20 and COP. They will have this sort of stretch of 2 years where nature finance is going to be very prominent. And we would do our part in making sure that this area is addressed as part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. And of course, let's be reminded of the fact that finance is absolutely critical to making not only restoration, but also sustainable use and conservation work. There's not a shortage of finance per se, but there is a shortage of ensuring that that finance gets to where the action is needed. So hopefully this will take that forward. Thank you so much. In this first panel, our last speaker will be Maitha Mohamed Hameli. She's a section head at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, with a decade plus of experience in marine conservation in the United Arab Emirates. And she'll speak to us about the World Restoration Flagship Initiative. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be quick because we're running out of time, but I'll try to be to the point. In Abu Dhabi, we looked at restoration from a holistic perspective. We did not look at things in silo. We did not work on restorations in silo. We worked on a broader, from a broader perspective. So we worked on habitat restoration, focusing on mangroves and corals, and now moving into seagrasses. But we also looked at restoring fisheries, because there was a large depletion in fisheries. And I don't need to tell you, you guys have been here for a few days. You've seen how hot it gets in the afternoon. And we're in December. So you can imagine how much that takes a toll on our corals, especially when it is summer. So we pinpointed some key areas we need to look at, including corals. Of course, mangroves are always front and center because they do provide a lot of important ecosystem services, including being carbon sinks, fisheries nurseries, and they also act as the first barrier when it comes to coastal protection. There are a lot of challenges. Finance being the top challenge, finding financing and finding people to buy in. But I think there is a new hunger to invest in nature today, and it's becoming more and more obvious than it used to be in the past few years. I remember when I first joined the Environment Agency, we used to get most of our fundings from CSR projects as corporate social responsibility projects, but now we actually are getting fundings for the benefits that are coming out of these ecosystems. Of course, climate change is a huge player here because, like I said, the heat is unbearable in summer, and I think we've seen how it hit Florida's corals, how it hit the Mediterranean corals, and how it hit the corals in Australia. So just imagine the heat 10 times that here. And yet our corals are surviving and are thriving and are bouncing back after each bleaching event, which makes our corals not only important for us, but I think important for the world to come and look at as a living lab for climate change. This is how I like to put it. Of course, the local knowledge is available here, and we have a lot of good local resources when it comes to understanding our ecosystem, but when it comes to restoration, it's a bit tricky because restoration is fairly new. We have decade experience when it comes to mangrove. We're building our experience when it comes to corals, but we're finding seagrass is a bit trickier than the rest. Some of the things that we have done to make restoration more attractive is we are starting to focus on attracting finances. We're ensuring that there is a data flow and sharing of data, because if there is no data flow and there is no sharing of data, we will not know what our downfall is, and we will not know what your strong suit is, and we will not be able to benefit from what you know. And for example, I'll just use this as a quick example to wrap up because time. We have started to use, or we looked at using drones in planting mangroves or restoring mangrove areas in 2020. And we've run a 2-year program as a pilot study to understand if it is doable or not. And by harnessing the technology of drones to plant mangroves, coupled with local knowledge, we actually picked the brains of the older generation on how they used to restore mangrove forests and took the way they used to do it previously and incorporated it in the drones and managed to reach almost 50% success rate planting mangroves with drones, which is something we are quite proud of. As the Environment Agency, we are a regulatory body, so we have the policies in place and we have the regulations and the laws in place. But the tool we like to use, and I like to use this a lot, is the protected areas. And people do not understand how important protected areas when it comes to restoration. Protected areas, having protected areas, be it marine or terrestrial, is your first step into restoration. Conservation comes first. So if you are able to conserve the majority of your habitats, restoration is just the cream on top.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And a very good reminder that indeed protection and stress abatement are preconditions to successful restoration. So thank you for that. This brings us to the end of the first panel. We are very late on time. Nonetheless, we also started a moment late. So with your permission, I'll take a couple of questions from the floor if we have some. Should you have a question, please state your name, your affiliation, and a very succinct question, and if relevant, direct it to one of our excellent panelists. Please go ahead, sir.
Arief Rabik from the Bamboo Village Trust. A quick question, I guess, to all the panels. We work with social forestry, and so in terms of empowering people, you know, what's the critical gap that you see as a priority to bridge in 2023? You know, with the power of this COP and the momentum that's being built, how can we move the needle right now in terms of empowering people?
You have the question. Do we have any takers? Please go ahead.
It's a very interesting and tricky question because a COP, it's a negotiation process. But it's not only the negotiation process, it's also the willingness of a COP presidency that can bring and push forward an agenda. So myself, as a FAO, we are very pleased because we have seen, for instance, the Emirati Declaration on food system. So this help us. So you have also the negotiation. Agriculture, basically, they are stuck, but it's a negotiation process. So how to move things, it's really to put all together the policy angle, the negotiation, also showing and trying to move the things, so the co-presidency and the successive co-presidency. And you were mentioning Brazil. Brazil, for instance, they will have the G20 and indeed COP30, so we also count on Brazil, and all that can help. But then you need also to engage with the people, and this is basically what you were presenting. So the answer is not just you just do that or that and that. You have to combine policy, finance, and data, because also if you don't have data, and this is what I want to finalize, the firm, for instance, if you don't know what you are doing and how you have to address, basically, if you cannot monitor, it's difficult also to have the people engaging. So basically, those three pillars, policy, finance, data, tools, are interconnected, and this is the only way to move things, in my opinion.
Thank you for that.
Just to add to that, it's about doing everything, everywhere, all at once, and understanding the power of individual actions.
I think that's a good note to end this first panel on. Thank you so much, all four of you. Do stick around in case there should be more questions later. Let's move forward now to the second panel, and I'd like the panelists to join us here on the podium. We will have three speakers in this panel. First of all, and I will invite you one at a time, introduce you one at a time. Just please take a seat, Arief. Our first speaker will be Mr. Arief Rabik. He's the Executive Director of the Bamboo Village Trust in Indonesia, a non-profit that he has founded. Arief is an expert in bamboo cultivation, value-added processing, and investment in village-level production. And he'll speak to us about their efforts on ecosystem restoration. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Which one do I use?
I think you can take your pick.
This one? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So the Bamboo Village Trust is a philanthropic financial vehicle that believes that bamboo, amongst its friends, the agroforestry components in a bamboo-based agroforestry system, can really turbo boost the restoration of degraded lands, because of some of the unique qualities of bamboo and how when we take a lot of these learnings from ancient communities and reinvent the traditional technologies, and with philanthropic funding, help them to do the planning process to align their indigenous genius and local knowledge with modern civicultural systems and markets. Actually, we can have amazing climate champions in the rural areas of communities that are adjacent to large tracts of degraded land. So, we talk about this thing called the restoration economy. This is a degraded tin mine in Ipoh in Malaysia, where we're planting indigenous species as well as Dendrocalamus aspera, a giant bamboo that can grow 30 meters tall. And yeah, we understand that actually in these degraded areas, people need time, the community needs time to figure out the way in which to make money and livelihood from the restoration process. So we designed a 4-pathway system where we use a little bit of AI and GIS mapping to do a site selection phase. And we really activate what we call a champion through a backbone landscape partner, which actually is what we're going around the world trying to look for. Sorry, I almost took you out there. And so looking for partners who are adjacent to degraded lands that can help us in a 3-year process build an operational plan, a business plan, a benefit sharing plan, the most important of them all, and a tenurial plan for these communities in a 3-year process to develop the right way that they can create what we call a restoration economy. And this champion then brings that to 200 households, and they do a farmer field school process for another 6 to 9 months. And after that, then they start seedlings and they start planting, etc. And so this first phase is a lot of what we've learned from other initiatives, and we really believe that bamboo in a bamboo-based agroforestry system can really turbo boost this process of creating this restoration economy. So we have started an RFP on the 30th of November. It was supposed to say that somewhere there. And so I invite anyone who knows any landscape partners who are interested in the livelihood approach of ecosystem restoration to reach out to us. We are part of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, and yeah, would be a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for providing a wonderful example of genuine community engagement and genuine local benefit also from the restoration of natural ecosystems. Without any further ado, let's take our next speaker. Ms. Vera Voronova is the Executive Director of the Association for the Conservation of Biodiversity of Kazakhstan, which is a non-governmental, non-profit organization and partner of BirdLife International. She'll speak to us also on a World Restoration Flagship Initiative. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to start to say that 50% of the grassland ecosystem and other open ecosystem are destroyed or fragmented, and only 5% of them are globally protected. And fortunately, Kazakhstan still remains the largest native grassland ecosystem in the world. And but to functionally to make this ecosystem optimal functions, we need a very healthy population of the grazers, which mean not only the wild animals but also the domestic, sustainable domestic livestock management. And without enough grazers, unfortunately, grasslands are very much vulnerable to decrease of the summer fires. And so to really face this issue, in 2006, we framed conservation initiative, which is called Altındala, and from Kazakh language is translated like a golden step. It's the partnership of the governmental and non-governmental organization to restore steppe ecosystem by using keystone species of the saiga antelope. The saiga antelope is the keystone grazers, and in the middle 20th centuries, there were more than 1 million animals present across this Eurasian steppe. But unfortunately, just during the 10 years between 1992 and 2002, we lost 90% of the population of these animals, and only 48,000 animals left across the country. And so this is, just a second. So yeah, and this is how that we decide that we need a proper strong collaboration between the government and non-government organizations. And from the beginning, we started from the research to provide the evidence for decision-making, for the capacity building. We used the satellite telemetry to give the data where anti-poaching activities should be focused. We used the helicopters and planes to do the aerial surveys, and to help to prevent illegal wildlife trade for the horns, because this was one of the reasons why saiga were poaching, because of the horns. We used to work with the Border Customs Service to provide some activities like the conservation sniffer dogs to prevent smuggling of the saiga horns. And also the data that we gathered was used to create the new protected areas in Kazakhstan, which is totally was more than 5 million hectares across the whole country. So showing for the graphic, we can see that it's very much globally remarkable recovery of the wild animals. And from the number that I mentioned, in the May this year, we have 1.9 million of individuals in the country, which is really great conservation success. And And what are the challenges in implementation? We are quite a young country with a very small population, just 20 million people, and a big country. And all economical sectors are very much struggling with the professional staff to deal with the conservation and environmental and even climate mitigation work. So we really invest a lot to come and build capacity from the school to universities, from the governmental agencies, and especially working with the protected areas and the rangers to provide trainings and lectures. And coming to the saying about other challenges, unfortunately it happened that our success is also to face our challenges. By having so many saiga, some of the area of the country, we have a local community who raise concerns about the competition for the pasture lands and the water resources. And now we are facing the new challenge when we need, and we are very much open for the best work practice to see how this human-wildlife conflict can be solved inside the country. And also, like saiga is the not only historical species, which is very important for the steppe, and we try to bring like wild horses and Asiatic ass back to the steppe in the reintroduction project in Kazakhstan, also working by the not only the mammals, but also on the scavengers and the raptors, which is important for this landscape. This is example about, it's a very, just 2 slides. It's example about the challenges of the co-finances. This is the 600,000 hectares of the new protected areas, which was established by the government, but very much supported by philanthropic foundation. And this is example about how this can work. But what is the next? We're looking for the opportunities to co-finance our work by using the voluntary carbon market, and very much hope that work that we are doing in Kazakhstan can be also registered under the global standards that are developed by mentioning organization. So this is end from me. Thank you very much. And so we are really involving our work from not only conservation, but also conservation and sustainable use, which can bring the benefit not only for ecosystem, but for the local people and their livelihoods.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vera. And I think a stunning species conservation success, which has implications for ecosystem restoration, which has implication for the carbon dynamics of the ecosystem, and indeed part of the puzzle in solving the climate conundrum. So very, very interesting case study. Thank you so much for being here. Our last panelist in this session is Mr. Manuel Jaramillo. He's the Director General of the Fundación Vida Silvestre, Trinational Atlantic Forest Pact, which is an Argentinian non-governmental organization working to restore the Upper Paraná. And again, he will speak to us about one of the World Restoration Flagship Initiatives. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I thank you to be here. Actually, I feel really, really proud to try to represent more than 360 organizations that work in Atlantic Forest. And the reach of the flagship for us was really, really empowering and motivating initiative. And we were working together, trying to put in the same basket 2 big initiatives, the Pacto de Restauración de Mata Atlántica and the Red Trinacional de Restauración. It is the kind of 2 initiatives that grow from the bottom up at the beginning in Brazil with the Pacto for Restauración de Mata Atlántica, and after that in the 3 countries, supporting not only for Fundación Vida Silvestre or WWF, supporting for several organizations that is working very, very hard to try to recover the Atlantic forest. Atlantic forest is maybe one of the most endangered forests in the world. We only have no more than 10% remains, and it is really, really fragmented. And the restoration is a tool that we need not only to recover the forest, to recover the connectivity for several species. Jaguar is maybe our flag species. We have a flag species for a flagship, and it is a very nice option to try to promote the restoration as an opportunity, not only to recover forests for people, for water, but for connectivity too. And it is important to understand that, as the video say, restoration is too expensive. And we need to be really, really strategic about we can decide to put money to restore it. And the restoration forest, in that case of the forest, is important to connectivity, and sometimes it's important to not the physical connectivity, mainly the functional connectivity, creating the space to the mobilization of species. And we are, we have 1 hectare per people. We are 140 million people in the region, and we have 145 million hectares of original forest. And the challenge maybe are the same that they had in another place in the world, but I think that we are really success to develop medium or small scale process of restoration, working with people, and there are cases with working with more than 400 families or 100 families to recover maybe 2 or 3 hectares per family. And it is important for us because it includes people, and it is restoration with people and for the people. And I think that it is a kind of nice scheme that it is possible to spread around the world. And maybe talking about the scalable solutions, we are trying to promote the use of the partnership between several organizations that work in implementation, that work in research, that work in promotion of policies, to get all to the same place and to reach more ambitious scale. Now, maybe there are 1 million hectares of restoration forests ongoing, but the idea is to try to, in the next 3 years, scale up to 300,000 hectares more, and in the next, we reach 5 million hectares by 2025. But besides to try to summarize, there is a QR that you could download information about the flagship. But I want to try some messages that I was writing down in the meantime we are prepared the presentation. In that COP, we were discussing about the starting of the loss and damage found, and it is already in place. Restoration is a kind of reduce the damage and to recover the lost areas, and it is important for resilience and it's important for people. We need to use, as I know, the jaguar or another species, a flag species for the flagship, and obviously we need to protect areas. It is a first step to restoration, but we need to deliver to stop the drivers of deforestation. It's not good enough to work in restoration if we don't stop the drivers. Sorry.
Thank you, Manuel. And I have to say, it's impressive, ambitious numbers on the screen, and numbers in terms of area, in terms of carbon, in terms of jobs. And this is what matters. So thank you for sharing that. We are very, very late. Apologies, I believe we can't allow any more questions, so we have to end it here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your experiences, your expertise. Restoration is not a substitute for conservation. It's not a substitute for sustainable use, but it's absolutely critical to address historic loss. It's absolutely critical to address the recent ecosystem loss that stands in the way of achieving global goals and targets. To leverage that potential, it's really critical that we do it right. And so it's amazing to have this snapshot of excellent efforts that are underway within the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. And I encourage all of you to continue that discussion, to speak to each other, to go out there and speak to a broader audience so that we can continue to harness the power of restoration for climate and other outcomes. Thank you very much.